Hello.
What's discussed?
Most frequently we discuss the latest events, but on occasion we delve into history.
History, then.
Okay.
What's the last book you read besides a textbook or a fiction book?
Just a moment, please. I'll quickly check the title on my phone,
Sure,
if you don't mind.
that's even better.
I'll tell you. You yourself personally suggested this particular book by the Japanese historian, specifically on the history of Donbass.
Duh.
Here it is, Kuromiya, Freedom and Terror in Donbass. I'm currently reading it. I haven't quite finished, but I do read it when time permits. It's a very interesting book. Thank you so much for that, really.
That's what the channel is for.
I'm your subscriber, and
Yeah.
gosh, I truly hope to connect with you someday. I really want to extend my sincere gratitude for finally clarifying to an ignorant person like myself the true importance of history. I used to avoid it throughout my school curriculum, but now, thanks to your influence, I have developed a passion for history, and I am making every effort to delve into its study as thoroughly as possible, to put it simply.
And what's your profession, or are you still a student, or...
No, I'm no longer a student. I finished my studies quite a while ago. Currently, I am employed in the tourism sector. Right, but my studies were in a completely different field. Yes, I attended Ivan Kozyedub Kharkiv Air Force University. I left after my third year because I did not want to be in the military. I completed a sports degree, but I'm currently employed in the tourism sector. And now I'm trying to branch out into a different area. I have a question for you. I did have some questions for you, and honestly, I even pictured this moment, like envisioning that I would finally meet you and everything would go smoothly, but I find myself getting nervous again. In reference to these most recent occurrences that are currently unfolding, particularly those connected to the ongoing war. Is this a direct continuation of the policies pursued by the Soviet Union, specifically what Putin is currently implementing? I mean, if we examine him historically, not merely as a political figure, but as a historical one, he will enter history regardless. Because from my personal observation, what's happening now appears to be very much the same as what transpired during the Soviet Union era. Are these the continuation of all those truly awful things that happened, or is this really a completely new turn of events?
Well, this is actually a continuation of the overall Russian policy, which truly started roughly during the latter half of the 15th century. However, the connection sadly was interrupted.
It broke off.
It broke
All
off.
right. I just didn't know.
The connection can break at any moment.
Well, I just thought maybe they were already cracking down on things here because Telegram hasn't been working for the past few weeks. And it doesn't seem to be working well now either. I don't know how things are in Ukraine right now. You were saying it's a continuation of.
It's a continuation of Russian policy going back, God willing, to the end of the 15th century. It's a constant policy of territorial expansion. An empire can only exist when it's expanding. When an empire begins to lose its territories, it inevitably disintegrates. Putin is making efforts to halt the disintegration of the Russian Federation due to its nature as a typical empire. This is the way it is.
So, in that specific situation, what connection did Ukraine really have with the Federation? I mean, that already happened a really long time ago, like 20 years ago back then.
Well, that's what's referred to as an imperial mindset. You understand that?
I see.
The majority of the population of Russia, and on Chatroulette it's the overwhelming majority of Russians, they have this imperial mindset. They don't perceive Ukraine as an independent state or Ukrainians as a separate nation. For them, this is reclaiming own territory, and Putin plays on that. And Putin may genuinely believe this, yet for the Russians, this is a war to expand their empire, but for us, it's an anti-colonial war, truly a fight for our independence.
Uh, Let me ask you something. I don't know if this is in your area of expertise or not. Does it make sense right now to do something? Following the example of South and North Korea, in order to preserve the lives of most of your people, just keep them alive?
Suggest
So to build, I mean, I'm just speaking theoretically, considering it from a theoretical standpoint. Hypothetically, right now, agree to a ceasefire, establish several defensive lines for yourselves, join NATO, and simply erase Donetsk from memory as though it had never been there at all. So that people in the rest of Ukraine can simply live, survive, and carry on with their lives. Freeze the conflict.
I grasp that, yes, but the conflict itself is the primary issue. If we had only understood that the Russian leadership would proceed with such a decision, and I think, and our leadership, I also think they think the way I do, or I think the way our leadership does. Putin will not stop with this, as his actual goal is not just to seize a portion of Ukrainian lands. What purpose does this serve for him? His ultimate goal is to maximally expand Russia's territory to its utmost limits. If he successfully conquers all of Ukraine and perceives an additional opportunity to make further advances, for instance, he would probably refrain from venturing into Poland or Finland because, frankly, he would surely get a rap on the knuckles. A rap on the knuckles. He'll then advance south. For instance, consider Kazakhstan, where claims to northern Kazakhstan territories have persisted for quite some time. He will attempt to advance there, and if he manages to achieve any success, he will undoubtedly seize upon something more. Well, you comprehend that this is a classic strategy of territorial expansion. Russia will seize any opening, any sign of weakness to extend its reach, and it will persist in this aggressive behavior for as long as it remains capable. Therefore, this scenario is theoretically quite possible, but I really don't envision two Koreas here. If this region captured by Putin had proclaimed itself an independent republic, for instance, a PISAR, or perhaps a southeastern Ukrainian autonomous republic, then we could consider talking about some sort of two Koreas. But since they've already written all these territories into their constitution, where are the two Ukraines in that? Where are these two Koreas? It will simply be part of Ukraine, and Russia, by freezing the present conflict, will just be preparing for its next step. I'm sure it's no secret to you that Russian military factories work 3 shifts a day. Are they going to stop working 3 shifts and say, everything's fine, we've calmed down, we won't attack? Putin prepared for war many years in advance, that's already clear.
In that specific instance, it remains somewhat unclear as to why, particularly on February 24th, 2022, he achieved such a significant, even within Kiev itself, and in other directions. If he genuinely was preparing, then why was it to such an extreme degree? Wow.
I comprehend. They were getting ready for a rapid assault. Indeed, there was Mr. Medvedchuk and numerous pro-Russian political factions who consistently propagated to Putin the notion that the greater part of eastern Ukraine's populace would rally behind him, thus obviating any substantial defensive engagements. They were just marching in columns, weren't they? You understand that, right? You witnessed this whole situation unfold, and this very fact allowed us to swiftly acquire American and British anti-tank weaponry, which we then used to completely obliterate these advancing columns. Had they been readying themselves for a different conflict, for an assault from various locations, they were marching in columns, quite foolishly, as if in a parade. We even observed that they had their parade uniforms with them in one of the vehicles. So they were indeed preparing for what was intended to be a swift military operation. The plan envisioned the seizure of power in Kiev and a comprehensive reorganization. Most likely, a compliant president would have been put in place, someone who would promptly consent to cede a part of Ukraine's territories to Russia, while the rest of Ukraine would be obligated not to join the EU or NATO. For example, it would become a member of the CSTO and so on. I think that's the scenario they were preparing, but it didn't turn out that way.
Permit me to ask just one or two more questions, if I may. From your perspective, what factors do you believe contributed to the successful outcome? Well, I don't know how this 2014 conflict, specifically in that particular region where it all truly began, I mean eastern Ukraine, why did it particularly occur there?
No, it didn't start in eastern Ukraine, it started in Crimea. The conflict began with Crimea.
I concur, but what I'm getting at is that everything unfolded quite calmly there. even though it was a truly peculiar situation. From my perspective, I was actually at the Ivan Koshudub Kharkiv Air Force University, the military branch, and the people there held a vastly different viewpoint. One of the majors even confided in me during a private chat, just as I was being dismissed from the university, saying, "We have this one particular instructor. This is a summary, explained in simple terms. We have a specific instructor who is the only one among us currently supporting Ukraine, and he's just sitting isolated in the corner with whom no one interacts." That specific department was the Department of Metrology. I won't mention the names, but that conversation actually took place. So many people, really, even the head of our faculty at the time said that if we were surrounded in a Crimean-style scenario, this was basically our briefing. Do not open fire until you receive explicit orders to do so. Under no circumstances should you succumb to any provocations. If anything occurs, simply maintain your position and hold your ground. That is all. But we were just cadets back then, naturally. There was no discussion of any real combat activities, yet these pro-Russian sentiments were definitely in the air. How was it even possible to carry out such an act in Donetsk, effectively seizing this territory? Regarding Crimea, I'm genuinely not very well informed, to be honest with you. Overall,
I don't get the question. Why did they succeed in Donetsk but not Kharkiv?
no. Why indeed? Why did it happen in Donetsk? What made it possible for people to react that way? Was it due to a low level of education or a significant portion of the population having familial connections with Russian citizens, for example? So how was it even conceivable that this could have happened in theory? Because I'm sure it wouldn't have been possible in Kiev in 2014, for instance.
Well, you do understand that this is a complex issue. What you've just said is already a part of that question. And that's a valid point. A significant segment of the populace in the Donetsk area held pro-Russian perspectives. The so-called political structures of the Donetsk People's Republic didn't just suddenly appear in 2014, you see. Agitation for the Donetsk People's Republic, whether subtle or not, was ongoing. In fact, certain structures, mostly financed by the Russian Federation, were progressively established since the early 2000s. This entire situation was managed as a comprehensive, integrated package.
Well, I actually wanted to understand if education, and specifically the school education system, truly holds a crucial, even a primary key role.
If we're discussing school education, then from the Russian perspective, this kind of schooling holds immense significance and influence. Why do Russians keep pushing into Ukrainian territory? And they are absolutely convinced of it. It's not bravado, nor is it a mere figment of their imagination. They are absolutely convinced that Ukraine is a part of Russia, that it's a former periphery of the Russian Empire, that Rus is Russian territory. So the school education system, which commenced approximately in the latter half of the 19th century, was established as an integral system within Russia during that period. Indeed, it stems from the educational reforms enacted by Alexander II. The school education system from the time of the Russian Empire right through the Soviet Union saw some minor shifts in emphasis, yet fundamentally it remained the same comprehensive system. In modern Russia, they consistently present Russia's history as an integral part of Russian history. They are absolutely convinced that Ukraine is Rus, that it is Russia. And that's where this really has an effect. Just this morning, right before our call, I spoke with an acquaintance from Russia yet again. Why is Russia's Ukraine? Russia's is Russia, our lands. We are taking back what is ours, and this system has been working for over 100 years. And since this system was also at work here in our own